Thanks for joining us for our online parenting masterclass. These have been designed to help you and your little one navigate the first 1,000 days together. And today we're delving into the world of sleep, or lack thereof, and I have some experts in sleep deprivation here with me. Chantel, aka Fat Mum Slim, Beth, who you guys might know as Baby Mac, and also midwife extraordinaire Jess Krigstein. And Jess, I want to start with you because you've got both personal and professional experience, so I'm expecting you to give me the secret to a good night's sleep once this little one arrives.
I'm going to disappoint you because I just don't know what the secret is. But I do think that feeding your child well will enable them to sleep better, and it's about adjusting to less sleep rather than trying to gain more sleep at every single spare moment you have in the day.
Well, and it is a big adjustment, and especially in those early days. So tell me what those sort of first 6 weeks look like with a newborn.
Well, the hardest thing is for an adult, we have different activity in the day and the night. We're used to going to work and then have a period in the time of the night where we just are asleep. Whereas for a newborn baby, up to the first 6 weeks, there's no difference. If it's at midnight or if it's in midday, they're going to have a very similar sleep cycle where they feed, they're up for a few minutes looking around, and then they want to go to sleep and repeat. But we're not in charge of when that little alarm clock is going to wake us up.
Right, you've got some experience with this. Chantel, tell me what it was like for you.
Oh, I'm still so tired. My first daughter just did not sleep. She woke every 40 minutes for pretty much the first 14 months of her life. So I just was so tired, and it was a real struggle. And I think I learned from that with my next baby that she started to fall into that pattern again, and I was like, I need to get help. So I did ask a midwife to come to the house and just help me out in learning to get her into more of a routine. But those first 6 weeks, you really can't get into a routine. You just have to go with the flow with the baby and do what they need. So that's what I just had to do.
Just survive.
Yeah, just survive on less sleep. Just be a sleep a zombie.
Yeah, zombie.
So what was the turning point for you then? Was it getting that help?
I enjoyed parenting more when I got that help with Lulu, who's 3 now. It just made such a difference for her. She was happy a baby once she got sleep, and once I was getting sleep as well, it made such a difference. So it was a big thing.
Jess, what are some of the challenges that people come up against? What are some of the things that they tend to struggle with?
I think we need to kind of zone in on the baby. It's very common for a woman to be so focused on so many things that we miss the whole point, and that's mothering that baby. There are definitely early signs that you can be watching out for. So the baby might start holding their hands tight like a fist. After a few weeks, they'll be able to focus with their eyes on something, but when they're tired, they can't. So you might be looking at your baby and getting no response whatsoever. They might be turning around a bit, trying to get comfortable. That's the time to pick your baby up and help them so that they do fall asleep, because the next signs are the yawning and the crying, and that will lead to an overtired baby and one that's very hard to put down to sleep.
And all babies must be different. Beth, you've done this 3 times. So was your experience different every time?
Definitely, and each kid is different. They're all going to have their own strengths, and my firstborn was pretty good at sleeping, but it's like you said, reading those signs, and you can miss them. They happen really quickly. Definitely. And if you're making a cup of tea and you haven't seen that baby rub its eye, it's like, oh man, I missed it. And each day, each week, you get better at seeing those signs, and it's sort of helping them learn to get to sleep. It's like you've got to teach them what to do and make them comfortable. And yeah, it's tricky to miss those signs. So yeah.
You've touched on something quite important. We actually had a question from a mum saying, I've heard there's a very short window between tired and overtired. So how do you know that you've crossed to the dark side?
Well, you know, there's a lot of noise that starts to happen when you've reached overtired, and it's hard to settle them and help them get to sleep, because when you can see the signs and you do it, it can happen really quickly, and you're like, I've nailed that, and you give yourself a high five, and you should give yourself a high five, because when you're doing it right, we focus on all the things we're doing wrong, and I think it's really important to go, I've nailed that sleep. Overtired comes quickly, and
it's not fun.
It's not fun for the mum or the baby. Or the husband, or the other kids, or life, you know.
What helped for you? What really helped to kind of turn the corner?
It's just forming that routine that makes all the difference, and that's where you can turn the corner. And it's just experience. Once you hit that 6-week mark, people talk about that magical 6-week mark. It's as much about the baby reaching that milestone as for you. It's just your confidence, and you can confidently wrap that baby, give them a pat, and they'll know that they'll go to sleep and that you're doing the right thing.
Jess, how do we know when something's wrong with Bub, when they're not well or they're colicky or they're too hot, as opposed to just being a grizzly baby?
Yeah, it's really hard. A lot of people will give their opinion, especially the in-laws and the parents, and we're very quick to judge and come up with a diagnosis, but babies do cry and they are trying to communicate. And it's not good to do the same thing at 9 o'clock every day or midday every day, but a baby does need about 17 hours of sleep in 24 hours. And from about an hour and a half, they are going to get tired again. Now, a whole feed might take up to an hour, in which case you've only got about half an hour to really look at your baby and help prepare them. So if things are going wrong, that would be a baby that's never sleeping really in the day or the night. You should be able to settle your baby. What's very common is that the baby's falling asleep on mum's chest, but not when they're put back down. That wouldn't be a baby with a problem. That would be a baby that needs to learn how to go to sleep in their cot. A problem would be a fever, or if you can no longer get your baby to sleep, and that's definitely when I would seek some professional advice.
Who is the best person to reach out to? Is it your GP? Is it your health nurse? Who's the right person to?
I would start with the GP, and they can check on the health of the baby and make sure that the baby's gaining weight and feeding's going okay, and also check on the mood of the mother as well. I would then also talk to a healthcare nurse, a midwife, a lactation consultant, and they'll all be able to come up with a plan that's going to suit you and the baby.
So ladies, how did your partners cope? Because especially in the early days, there's not that much that they can do.
We don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, cry me a river that you can't get to sleep. Like, I think the trouble in the first, well, it's not so much the first 6 weeks. Everything gets upheaval in that time. Babies are trying to work it out. You're trying to work it out. It's that prolonged sleep deprivation that is really hard. And I had that for a long time. I've only just had my daughter start sleeping through the night at 8 years old. And that is tough on relationships because it can be like a battle of the wills between who's going to wake up and
Who's
deal
going to
with
get
it.
sleep?
Who's going to get sleep? And you really have to come up with a game plan between the two of you. And it's like boats passing in the night when you see each other and you wake up and you think, who's where?
Yeah.
You don't know. So it's really about communicating with each other and coming up with a plan to try and get the most sleep for everyone.
And I just would say to my husband, can I please just get a 3-hour block at the start of the night? And he would stay up till 11 and I would get that block and then he would sleep for the rest if he had to go to work or whatever. It's just, it feels like Survivor. Like you just have to do what you can.
It is, and I really, if I could get that sleep before midnight, I was able to do so much more. Something happens to me between the hours of 7 and midnight where I'm not, if I get woken up, I wasn't great, I would snap, I'd get cranky, but if I could get to 12 or midnight, take that later shift, I would be better off, yeah.
I did want to ask Jess, what are some of the physical and psychological challenges that come with sleep deprivation? Like, what does it do to us?
It really can affect our mood. And it's really hard because we're trying to make all these important decisions. We're talking about our newborn baby. This is the most important thing that we've ever done, and we're trying so hard and there's so much information and we're tired, and then we're trying to make a decision that matters. And so we're probably crying at the same time and we're not looking or feeling the best. And so it's helpful to have a partner that even though if they're a bit tired, that's okay. Tag team, work it out. Do one good thing for yourself between every single feed cycle. I always recommend starting the day with a shower and getting dressed. Then after the next feed, maybe just having breakfast and having a really good meal. Small achievable goals, and then you'll feel so much better rather than counting the amount of minutes or half-hour periods of time that you've actually slept.
So is this early stage about empowering the baby to be able to settle themselves? Is that effectively what you're doing, trying to teach them to sleep? Or are you both just trying to ride out that early period together?
I'd say it's a combination of the two things. I would say that a good feed will also lead to better sleep. So as feeding improves, so will sleep. But it's also about helping your baby learn so that they have the skills that they can use when they're a lot older. It's always good as soon as you finish a feed to make sure that your baby's past all their wind and then put that baby straight down when they're drowsy so that they are aware of where they are and that they can fall asleep on their own without leaving them alone at all.
And then is it later, say after sort of 6 months, that you can look at implementing other techniques like controlled comforting, for example, to actually teach them to try and sleep through the night, hopefully before the age of 8?
I know, like, don't even ask me. I've got no clue, clearly. But yeah, I think anything those first months are like survival mode. You are working out what's going, and you just can't get worked up about a routine that's meant to be happening because each child is different. Like I've personally found not having any expectation was the best solution for me, because then I couldn't get disappointed and then beat myself up, and just go with the flow. Take it easy, relax. You need to get sleep. I think the lack of sleep really sucks so much of yourself out. You just can't, it's really tough. So.
And then being in mother's group and hearing that there will be some babies that are sleeping, and you just can't believe that some people are having babies that sleep and then you're not. And I think just knowing that everybody's
compare.
different.
Try not to compare.
Yeah. And I waited till 9 months to get help, and I just wanted to do whatever she needed to do until she was old enough. And when I did get someone in to help, I just said, I don't want her to cry or anything. I just want to work with her. And we did a really beautiful way to get her to sleep. And so it worked really well for us.
Okay, so from my bloggers, in 40 characters or less, what is your advice for a mum who's in the middle of the night? She is at the end of her tether and she just needs something to cling on to cope.
Sunrise is never that far away. You know what I mean?
When
Like
the sun
everything
rises.
it's the worst. Everything is so bad at 3 o'clock in the morning. As soon as you see that sun coming up, you just go, okay, have a cup of tea.
okay.
I'm okay. It's going to be okay. We made it through another night. So just, there is always going to be bad days, but there's hope to start again anew the next day. And you can do it. And you're doing a really good job, because it's hard and it's tiring. It's exhausting mentally and physically, but pat yourself on the back.
And take a nap when you can.
Yes.
So I made a promise to my daughter, which I've still kept, and she's 9 months old now, is that every single morning when I see her, I give her a smile. And I remember that she didn't do anything on purpose. It was not her intention to keep me up at night, and we'll start the day fresh. And that really helped me and still helps me today.
Oh, that's beautiful. No matter how little sleep a baby will be, they will wake up fresh as the day, and you will think, how are you so happy? And you can't be cranky with a happy baby.